Welcome back to this episode of the Law of Relevancy podcast. Today I've got some really exciting guests, the whole team from Kitchenery. We have Paulo, we have Andrew, and we have Akshay, who have created the most amazing device where what you're getting is wireless power to appliances in your kitchen. And without further ado, guys, tell us a little bit more about your inspiration behind creating this next-gen version of the appliances we have in our house.
Wonderful, Cordis. Thanks for having us on, the Law of Relevancy show here today. To take a step back, on Kitchenery, why it all, started is because we realized that, consumer kitchens, kitchen in your home is one of the places which gets the most amount of foot traffic, right? It is the heart of everyone's place, and this is really where I personally saw inconveniences in everyday cooking. I used to live in a small apartment back in Milwaukee where I had two plugs and a whole bunch of appliances plugged into that small little power outlet, and I knew that there was a better way to improve this whole cooking experience, and I'm one of those individuals that uses the kitchen space a lot more. So yeah, I come from automobile engineering background. I had my education is in materials and mechanical engineering, and I worked in the parts and design engineering department in commercial automobile industry, and I had some prior knowledge about wireless power transfer. And really, during COVID, the magic started to happen, right? And that's how Kitchenery was born. And eventually, we developed the first generation of the products. Now we have a whole team that's working on, bringing the vision that I created for consumer cooking, to life. So yeah, super excited to be on the show and discuss everything but chords.
I'm just going to get up now since we're going cordless on this show. And Akshay can sit in my seat. So, Andrew, how did you join the team?
Yeah, so real interesting experience. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, and about 2 years ago, I was working for a company out of Silicon Valley that was an IoT software platform. So we were doing like Shark Ninja's robot vacuum, Keurig smart coffee makers, Kenmore smart washer and dryers, all the software connectivity that makes that work. And so I was looking for my next gig, and I went to High Tech Connect Tampa Bay, an event at Three Daughters Brewing in St. Pete. And so I started talking to a guy, and I was like, I'm really looking for something new. I want to stay in the IoT space, but I really think wireless power is like up next. Like, do you happen to know anybody working on that? I'd love to have a conversation. And he goes, I have just the guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? Like,
that's pretty obscure.
Yeah. I was like,
just the guy.
Kind of a shot in the dark. And I was like, well, I'm not an engineer. I'm more of a sales guy. And he goes, don't worry, this guy's an engineer. He needs a sales guy. And so he walked me over to Akshay. And about an hour later, we started working on things. And he's like, I told him, I was like, I think I could lead your sales team. He said, okay, pitch me right now on the spot. So I went and got us another round of drinks, and then we made it happen. But it's been a great experience. I think after about 6 months of negotiation, I fully came on the team, and I was like, I'm really happy to run the sales team. And he goes, great, you're going to run fundraising too. And I was like, I've never done that before for a startup. He's like, we'll figure it out together.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's like, it's just the opposite end of the business. So
that's fantastic. How about you, Paulo? How did you get involved?
So with me, it was, relatively similar to Andrew. I recently graduated from the University of Tampa. I've gotten my bachelor's in international business and entrepreneurship. As an international, I was looking for opportunities, and I wanted, something that would motivate me to do something that would improve people's lives, and not only that, but change it to, where people can actually have a space where it's accessible to them to cook, to just enjoy the experience. And I was in a class, waiting for, something to drop out of the sky for me. And in walks Akshay, and he pitched the company. And I looked around, and, these days everyone's kind of distracted in their own place, and I realized that, you know, as Andrew said, wireless power is up next. I've had, you know, my family has had history in the kitchen. We've bonded over food as part of my culture, and, you know, as a go-to-market strategy in the kitchen, making it more safe, something that, you know, I wanted for my whole family. It's something that I just jumped on board right away. That was in early 2022, and, you know, I've been with the company since. Now I run the marketing side. I also do, you know, a little bit of the operations, and yeah, just making sure we get on track and keep the things running smooth. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Yeah.
So, you know, the magical thing about, you know, the team here is we never had a job application. We never had, you know, a post that, all right, we're looking for a marketing person, we're looking for a salesperson. It just started to fall together. With Paulo, one of his professors is Josh Ray, right?
Mr. Josh Ray, yes.
Josh Ray, he invited me to his entrepreneurship class that, hey, you know, come to the class, you know, pitch your company, tell your story, and inspire students. And, you know, that's when I had the first conversation with Paulo. And, you know, he joined in as an intern. He graduated, and then we onboarded him full-time. And long story short, now we have a full internship program in collaboration with UT and the Spartan Incubator. And, you know, every semester we hire about four or five interns.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's become, I think it will eventually become, you know, I would say Kitchenery's own, you know, recruiting system.
Of course.
Yes,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course, yeah.
Well, let's talk about these appliances, these devices themselves, because, you know, when I first saw wireless power for the first time, I was like, oh, that's super cool, you know. And of course, my engineering brain, I'm looking at is like, how is this actually working? And then we got everybody mass distribution. We got the ability to charge our cell phones wirelessly. And so it became a very, very concrete example. But I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, that is plugging into a 5-volt USB. So it's not really shooting a lot of power through there. It's pretty low power. But when you watch your website, you're actually powering an entire, like a blender. And if you've ever turned a blender over, a lot of them are 1/2 horsepower. They're like, you know, 400 watts. That's a lot of power compared to what charges a cell phone. So how do you move that much power wirelessly?
So if you, you know, if you scale down and take a you know, deep look at the system that we have built, it works on, you know, the same principle of electromagnetic field that is used in, you know, a traditional wireless cell phone charger. But we have developed proprietary systems that enable it to do extremely, you know, high amount of power transfer. I would say roughly about 50 times more power than a traditional, you know, commercialized smartphone wireless charging system that is available right now. And we do this by, number one, custom coils. They're very bigger in size that enables high flux of electromagnetic waves.
Right.
And, you know, our system can do power anywhere between 50 watts to 1200 watts. So
Really?
that's the spectrum. And this pretty much covers more than 90% of the consumer electronic kitchen appliances. Even, I would say, consumer electronic devices, you know, most of them, they fall under the range of 1200 watts.
Well, I would think even in a kitchen, especially where there's a lot of heating and a lot of like power stirring and things like that, ovens and whatnot. I mean, ovens is going to be beyond that range, but like you're talking about devices that use a lot of power. And if you can prove it in a kitchen, it's a great proof of concept. It's a great example of how you can move very practical amounts of electricity wirelessly. I mean, I can think TVs these days don't even use that much power, you know? They're like 200 watts, right?
Yeah.
And so that is incredible that this is even a thing now.
It's
Yeah, I would say, you know, we are taking, you know, advantage of something that, you know, has been in the kitchen for a while now, and that's induction. So it, you know, it's a natural fit for Kitchenery and Kitchenery's technology.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that immediately comes to mind is What about people that are in and around these magnetic fields that you're creating? How are they affected by it?
So, number one is, doing something just for the sake of, proof of concept. And number two is doing extreme innovation, taking into consideration that, this is something that is going to be commercialized and it's not just lab technology.
Right.
And, we have developed our system. Number one, we have various different features like foreign object detection and directing the electromagnetic waves in a very specific direction where the appliances are placed.
So let's talk about that just for a second, because it's really nerdy and it gets me all geeked out. But like the foreign object detection, like I know. I'd never had an induction cooktop before I moved into the last house, but now when we set a pan down on the cooktop, even if it says it's for induction, if it doesn't have enough like a permanent or iron or whatnot in the bottom of the pan, it won't work properly.
Ferromagnetic material.
Okay, there you go, ferromagnetic material, right? So, but that thing is like it will detect if it's it's almost like bi-directional. It knows whether or not it's got the right pan and like working at the moment. And if it's not, an alarm will go off. Like, we know like that's not going to work. So the more ferromagnetic material, which I'm pretty sure is the root word for iron, ferrous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it can be other materials besides iron.
Yeah.
Is my point.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So magnetic like type material, right? The
Yeah.
things that like a magnet would stick to. The thing won't even work, right? So anyhow, it is very interesting how it works, because I don't understand how the little, like you're saying, is like the power is really in like a little bit of a sphere, and I'm imagining these coils will eventually be like embedded in your countertops.
Mm-hmm. So it is a combination of both. We have what we call the smart frequency modulation, and using that modulation, we control the amount of power that has been sent from a transmission device to a reception device.
Okay.
And wait, is that an airplane flying above us?
Yeah, you won't be able to hear it on these mics.
Okay. So, compared to traditional, for example, the wireless power transfer, charging pad for phones, what this does is at all times it sends the exact amount of power. Let's say if the charger is rated 50 watts, it's going to send 50 watts no matter how much power is being consumed by a receiving device. But on contrary to Kitchenery system, with this smart frequency modulation, we control the amount of power. And to add to the second point of bidirectional communication, we have developed active communication protocols between Kitchenery's power receiving module and the pad.
So you haven't just made it work; you've made it smart.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
of course. Yeah.
I was just going to say yes. I mean, you have to, right? I mean, everything else is getting connected. If you're not getting into the smart home space, you're missing out. Again, I come from that background, and so I think almost every new build now has a Nest or Alexa Connect of some sort, and so we've built Alexa Connect kit into the smart pad so that you can talk to the devices and collect curated device analytics, etc.
So I'm just curious about some of the other conversations that are happening out there in like some of the high-tech centers. So you're from Silicon Valley. What made you want to get into wireless power?
A combination of, being a Tesla kid. Tesla really started when I was a child, and the whole dream of electric EVs. But even going back farther to Nikola Tesla and his goal of high power, long range. It's sort of one of those things that coming from an engineering family was just always kind of like folklore taught about. I've always been part of the startup game. I've been in a few startups in the past, but when I met Akshay, I just kind of felt like this guy was different and he was going to really make it. I've been around a lot of innovation in my life. my family owns a steam systems engineering company, so it's not sexy. It's boiler rooms, but programming like PLCs to automate that whole system was something I did in my past career. And so, yeah, I guess I just, as I grew and matured, I realized that I like glamour.
Yeah,
and,
makes
this core technology has applications across the device spectrum. So, it's not just appliances, but laptops, phones, tools, beauty products, drones, for example. And that's very relevant to, the wars going on around the world. We're looking into some SBIR grants right now to do autonomous rapid recharge of drones so they don't have to switch out the batteries manually. And so it gives the warfighter a capability to have 24/7, 365 surveillance and operations from the drone fleet.
So the drones can be done with their mission and land somewhere, and then someone doesn't have to go change batteries. They can just stay in a safe spot, and just get charged and then take off again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the goal. On how can we create systems that will eventually eliminate the number of steps you take to perform a single task. Whether it is in the kitchen space or whether it is in in a war zone. For example, in the drones, you are really automizing at level 5, level 6 to have complete remote deployment of systems. You deploy a pad and you deploy a whole set of drones that goes with it. They do their X job, and they land back to a specific location. They rapidly recharge by themselves and they deploy by themselves. So human intervention, how can we minimize human intervention with rapidly innovating technologies?
When I was going to add to that is, if you think about it, just the convenience aspect on this drone application, we've also made it smart, as you said. We're able to collect data real time and give it to, the clients, or give it to the people using those pads, the agencies using those pads to charge those drones, so they can probably make some early diagnostics of battery life or even conditions of said drone. This will not only increase the productivity of the drones, but it will also increase the safety for those patrol drones that usually can go missing, and you can early detect that. Is it for a fault for the equipment, energy, or was it something else? So the curated data that Kitchenery and the Kitchenery systems are able and aiming to be able to gather will definitely help military applications in the kitchen space and in many other applications around the smart tech, smart home ecosystem.
Yeah, what are some other devices that are a perfect fit for this technology?
So, number one, taking a step back, talking a little bit more about, data. Right now, if you see pretty much every kind of smart device, it has some sort of data that goes somewhere, and it is, there aren't a whole lot of systems in place that analyzes, that data. More than currently, the industry standards, more than 90% of this data is just lost, or it's stored somewhere that nobody sees. And what really we are trying to do is to create a more well-defined analytics system that where devices can interact with each other, and we can collect curated device data to make more hyper-realistic, product decisions, feature decisions, things like that.
But one example that he uses, and I love it when he uses, is Cord's your microwave, for instance. What are the features that you realistically like? What do you use in your microwave right now? What are the features that you use on it?
I use the popcorn button.
Okay,
And
that's one.
I use the keypad to put in like the number of seconds I want, and that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, that's
right.
That's way more than the typical person needs. For me, it's 30 second,
Right.
30 second, 30 second,
Yeah.
and open. That's pretty much it, right? So what we're saying, and the value that we bring with this curated data, is that we are able to look at what consumers are actually using and what they're using it for. So, big companies can make those decisions instead of just for the aesthetics or, just to have an extra feature. Let's focus on the consumer. Let's focus on what they actually want.
Consumer-centric product device and product design is really what sets Kitchenery apart from any kind of other brand that is out there.
So to answer your question about the devices, we were part of the Techstars Accelerator in February of 22, and that particular event of Techstars was backed by Stanley Black & Decker, and so obviously power tools are a very good example. In that scenario, they would probably have a battery pack installed on them, so then it would be charging versus active power transfer. But Stanley's not just tools; they again make devices of every kind. So I think that's a big application. In my old days, connected beauty was starting to become a thing because they want to be like the salon in your home. They want to know exactly how they're using all of the curling irons and everything of that nature.
So it's not just about the device working. It's about how do we learn from how the device is being used.
Exactly, and anything that you can learn about your consumer, right? Is it a 30-year-old mom? Is it a 15-year-old girl? Is it Paulo when his hair is long?
Sure.
Yeah, and so if you think about it, as he was saying, about 90% of small appliances, there are 80 over small appliances that we identified already.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So, and the connected beauty space is just as large. I mean, straighteners, curling irons, and everything. I don't know that many because I don't use that many. But
yeah, well, it's interesting because like in the blender example, does the blender have a battery pack inside of it that you're sending power to, or it's just direct power?
It's actually direct power.
But in the drone example, we're talking about a battery, charging a battery.
Yeah.
Like for waterproof devices, things where the battery never really gets taken out. I would imagine like wireless powered being really powerful.
It would be very beneficial in areas where, for example, let's say underwater drones. That's one of the other things. It is a device that, operates under the water. And it, the enclosure mechanism and things like that for such kind of devices, WPT, wireless power transfer, completely makes a logical sense, to do rapid recharge system, for such kind of applications. But apart from that, if we look more into medical prosthetics, arms, robotic arms, legs, that operates on battery, as well as having it connected to the nerves of
Sure.
the human body. From the convenience aspect, if you see currently, the people who wear medical prosthetics and they want to recharge it, they have to remove their device, or remove their, let's say, a hand. They have to remove their hand and put it on a recharge system. Versus if we are able to develop a mechanism for that to charge wirelessly, I think that's a huge benefit in this industry as well. And some of the other applications that because we did a lot of exercise in the company that, all right, what is the huge potential of the technology that we're developing, and how is this going to affect the human, what is the right term for it? Mankind.
Yeah.
How is it going to affect mankind? And we jotted down like, all right, this is the spectrum of industries that can benefit from Kitchenery's ultra high power transfer WPT application.
Yeah.
So as and when more EV adoption takes place, imagine pulling up your electric vehicle like a Tesla or some other EV, just pull it up in your garage and it will charge by itself. You don't have to worry about bringing in a cable and putting it on on the back. You will never forget to power or recharge a device.
Wow, that's incredible. How so I've got a couple more questions that are just popped in my head. So I'm just thinking back to like that moment when you were like, man, this thing needs to exist, right? Usually my first action when I'm thinking like, wow, that could be something that brand new, is I go look to see if it exists, right? And then I wonder like, okay, who else is working on this exact same thing right now? Did you do any of that?
Yeah, of course, I had found some complementing, companies and wireless power transfer technology as a service companies that are, doing such kind of application in the commercial side, of the product spectrum. They didn't really, find a whole lot of companies in the consumer cooking space. There are companies out there that that are standardization companies that that are more in line towards, all right, how can we make this a standard, and how can we define certain protocols to have cross-device compatibility.
That's a big deal. I mean, I remember like many like business case studies I read about trying to figure out what was the best cell phone charging technology. And so like over in Europe, there's a lot more standardization.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were able to like arrive on like one thing. And like famously, I mean, European cell phones were better than the American cell phones in the beginning because they had standardized charging. Like they could eliminate that part of what they were working on and just, go with the standard back in the day.
So, taking, that example of cell phones, really how those standards were developed was based on mass adoption of consumers.
Sure.
Like, all right, now this is a group of consumers that are already using this technology, and it makes more sense to comply with, the things that is already been developed to continue ride on to that adoption versus developing something from scratch.
Yeah, but it's a combination of popularity
Yeah.
and also feasibility and practicality, right? And so I would imagine there are standards. I mean, I've taken my iWatch, I think it's called Apple Watch. I've taken it before and laid it on like the cell phone charger, and I think it does charge.
Yeah, it's called the Qi standard.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that there was a standard, but
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, maybe there is one.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
I mean there are various different standards. For your watch with Apple, I think it's a different standard. But considering the kitchen spectrum, there are some early on standards that we may not complement with Kitchenery's core technology offerings.
So what would you imagine is the ideal? Is it like a kitchen purpose planned for wireless appliances so that the coils are already in the countertops? Is it a retrofit where we'll take out your countertops and put in new countertops that have the power built into them? Because I imagine you're still running power to a coil, even though you're not running power to like an outlet.
Right. These are the, currently we have, the two options. Number one, the transmission coils and the transmission pad. We call it the quantum energy pad, hidden underneath the countertop. And that's one version. And the more easy to adopt consumer product that we're developing right now, it's the quantum energy pad that sits on your countertop, and you can use it right out of the box. So that comes with a suite of appliances, and it's readily available currently.
So we can buy that now?
Yeah, right now you can, reserve your quantum energy pad. You go to kitchenery.us/reserve, and you can reserve your energy pad, and you will be able to get your suite of cordless appliances, completely cordless appliances, including kettle, pressure cooker, air fryer, toaster, and a blender.
Wow.
So we currently we are onboarding the first 10,000 futurists who are going to adopt to Kitchenery technology once our consumer product offerings are in production.
Yeah. I'm kind of like just thinking, but I don't know if you've ever bought one of those like strip lights. an LED strip light, and they allow you to like just cut it, wherever you want it to cut, and it's like it works up into the point where you cut it. I'm just imagining like this covering to existing countertops that you can just scissor, to fit exactly right on top of your existing countertops.
Exactly. So
That might-
think of like spaces that are where like space comes at a premium, right? So the markets that we have, RV, yachts,
Yeah.
you can basically retrofit it, and
Right.
it's a seamless experience. So there's no plugs in your backsplash. You're not getting caught up.
Yeah.
There's less tripping hazards there. There's less electrocution risks.
No, it looks nicer. I mean, everybody's seen
Yeah.
like the Jetsons kitchen. There's like nothing on the counter.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
and you use it, you can like put it away, and it's like super nice and clean and feels very modern. So I mean, I definitely think this is like a cool direction to go in.
Yeah, it's stackable.
I think people are
modular.
gonna like this more.
Like how you said, cut your countertop in the fashion how you want it, and install, Kitchenery's quantum energy pad. But along with that, what it really does, it provides you multifunctionality of, that same space. Now
Sure.
you can use it, for powering your
I
appliances.
can make margaritas over here or over here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Either way, it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Either way, you get a margarita.
Either way, yeah.
Right.
So everybody wins.
Yeah.
So this is just super, super cool. So then, but I do want to kind of go back. So like you're an inventor, right?
Mhm.
And you came up with this concept about this high power thing. So you did a little research to see who else was trying to do it, and so you had found some people doing it, but they weren't exactly doing it in the kitchen space.
Right.
Right.
Not really in the kitchen space. There are some companies that that are developing complementing solutions. I mean, if you see cordless, there are cordless appliances that are available right now that are being powered by a battery pack.
Right.
Right.
I've seen some of
Yeah.
that, but that's big and bulky. It's not cool looking. Like yours, when I've gone to your website, like your appliance is like beautiful, and it's like one of those cool colors that you would want to see in a kitchen, right? It's not a DeWalt battery pack on the back of,
Right.
of a,
We have put a lot of effort in humanizing the core product aspect of our design. And number one, we made sure that we are only providing features and utilities of the product that consumers really prefer to use.
Got it.
Versus complexing the product design by incorporating multiple different features. So that's one philosophy we used is modern minimalistic design. It's a fusion of metal and plastic. It's got consistent designs, or there are consistent design elements across the device spectrum.
Sure.
So the same knobs, same handles. The branding is really elegant, and it is traditionally marketed to this consumer who is who's living in a modern city. He has good lifestyle, and they are on top of their innovation game.
Sure. Right. And the definitely the simplified designs are definitely, it's even though they're simplified, they can be very complex, and the usability of everything can also be very intelligent, right?
We wanted to aggregate value to the consumer kitchen, have our line be the statement piece of your kitchen, so you can place your blender on top and you make seamlessly like magic. You just place it on top and it works. You can control it from far away, so it makes it accessible to everyone. So yeah.
So the more simplistic it looks on the outside, the more sophisticated it is from the inside.
Good old like software programming philosophy.
Yeah.
Like the original iPhone and iPod, just one button, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it was highly complex and very easy to use. All right, so guys, what's next for you? So you can reserve this Kitchenery set on your website. About when do we think this is going to be out in kitchens?
Of course. So right now, we are in the works to make, the first set of demo units that we can, test it out with consumers. The look and feel of the product dimensions. Earlier, all the feature validation that we did was more based on surveys, interviews, and Kitchenery's internal team's personal experience on using their kitchen space and using their appliances. But now that we will make our demo units, it is actual consumer testing.
Sure.
So we are expecting to finish the generation 2 of our demo units before the end of this year.
Okay.
And early next year we plan to start our certification process. Finalize the tooling, design for manufacturing, and we are planning for a short production run in Q2 of next year.
That's super
That's the
cool.
first production run.
Right. So then by summertime, we might see
Yes.
this actually out there in the world.
Yes. By summertime, we will be able to, actually ship our products to consumer that are, ready to use right out of the box.
That's fantastic.
And you'll be in your boat, Cords,
Yeah.
enjoying your margarita. Trust me.
Well, that sounds super cool. I'll have to get one of these devices on the boat.
For sure.
Need to get a boat big enough to have one of these devices first, though. What do you got?
We have a 3D visualization platform on our website where you can actually build your boat with it in it.
Oh, nice.
And it's not that big of a boat, so
Yeah.
you'd be surprised
Yeah.
because you can put the power pad in multiple locations. We're working on a universal mount that will go into like the fishing rod holder. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
not just a yacht thing. We're trying to make it a boat thing. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, I got you. Well, that does make actually a lot of sense because, salt water and electricity, they just don't go that well together.
No. Trying
Yeah.
to minimize the hazards.
Yeah,
No.
of course, trying to minimize those hazards, but also as we speak to a whole lot of boat owners and boat companies, boat manufacturers, the one thing that we are hearing back and forth is, stability of the appliances while the boat
Of
is
course,
moving.
right.
And what design improvisions or improvements, upgrades, things like that we can do on our current product that can satisfy that requirement. And one of the things that we are thinking about is a maglock system.
That's what I was thinking. It seems pretty simple. It's
and
very natural to what you're already doing. Just
Yeah.
have like some magnets, like electromagnets that just lock it.
that number one locks it. It also auto places it in the right position that enables the maximum power transfer efficiency between the device and the energy pad.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. I mean, then it's fundamentally better. It's not just a cool way to turn on the juice. It's actually safer and everything else.
Yeah.
Right. I think we are still doing some simulation on how the magnets are going to affect the flow of the electromagnetic field and things like that. But all things considered, one of the other things with magnets is when they heat up, they lose their magnetic properties. So what kind of materials or what kind of magnets we can use that can still not lose its...
Maybe you do what I did downstairs with the oil. Just have it submerged in an oil.
Yeah, maybe that's the way to go. But I think that oil is mostly for heat dissipation and things like that.
Sure.
Obviously, heat is a challenge for us, but maglock is...
Oh, I see what
Yeah,
you're saying.
yeah.
It might get warm.
Yeah, it
I
might
got
get warm. So
Yeah.
we'll have to take a deep dive into the core engineering feasibility of the system. But I'm very confident that we can achieve a technology that is commercial and readily available in everyday devices.
That's amazing. Well, it's exciting to see what you guys are making.
One thing that I wanted to bring up that Andrew, thank you for reminding me of this. One of the things that we propose for boat owners that have, limited space is the stackability feature that we have for our appliances. So in the 3D visualization model we have on our website, you can actually see our appliances being stacked, on a very small space. So you don't have to, compromise a lot of space when you think of the design of the boat. Or for those that already have, a cabinet or a kitchenette in the boat, you can have a special designated spot that doesn't occupy a lot of your actual storage space. So it's not only maximizing the appliance usage while you're actively using it, but also when you're storing them.
No, that's super cool. No, I'm definitely going to check out that.
So this is the, like how you mentioned earlier, is it Jetson design?
Jetsons, yeah.
The Jetsons, yeah.
How the Jetsons would ideally like to, have their kitchens. This is, that's the new way, of cooking, of interacting with the space that, you use it pretty much every, multiple times a day, if not.
There's probably quite a lot of things that we haven't even imagined that would make our appliances more useful if they weren't tethered to some power source,
Mm-hmm.
We're open for ideas.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, guys, thank you for coming on the show. It's been super excited to learn about what you guys are making. And so what is immediately next? Like, what's the next thing that you're going to do?
Well, we're going to go back to work since it's not 5 yet. But so right now we're really focused on commercializing the technology.
Okay.
Getting rapid prototyping done, getting all your relevant licenses, so like your FCC, your CE, or UL, and then really rolling it out to our B2B customers, getting their feedback from their network of customers and dealers, and then making the final changes, and then start selling.
That sounds perfect.
All things considered, we're making holistic progress on, the whole Kitchenery venture execution, whether it's from the perspective of fundraising, team growth, product, sales, anything and everything that you need to, run an innovation venture.
Awesome.
I would say it was a pleasure, Cordis, and for next, at least on the marketing side, I would say for everyone that's watching, stay tuned to Kitchenery's social media website. We're coming up with some very exciting new content, visual content for you guys to see. So stay tuned.
That's great. We'll definitely follow you there, and you can follow us anywhere where podcasts are found, on the Law of Relevancy website, on Bake More Pie socials. So anyhow, we'll see you next time. Thanks you guys for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.